Alright, so this is how I do dome placement. You can see we already have a nice little deck here that I laid out in one of the other videos. I made this just for show, although there will be something like this in the final version of this base, but I have no idea really what I'm building yet. This is just mostly just a demonstration kind of thing. And what we are going to do is take this, these are concrete floor panels, and we are going to use these pavers on the foundation menu as a place to rest the cursor when we place biodomes. This is all getting deleted. So first and foremost, you can see how close that is. If we use this, and I'll show you, you'll understand later when I show you how I use the lines on these pavers to position the domes, which is the main reason I use them, because there's actually a ratio of domes to pavers that allows you to consistently place them using the lines. And you'll see what I mean shortly here. But that's too close. The dome will end up lipping over onto the other part of the base there. So we start here. Put the cursor right there and then work back one. And rotate it to get the height right, because when you rotate it, you get the height change too. So now if we just did this and just started running down here as I showed you before, by the time we get to the other end, these things are going to be like way up in the air, and it's not going to line up, and then you're not going to be able to put your domes where you want. People won't be able to get in and out of them without jetpacking, and this is about making it efficient and smooth. Get in, get your plants picked, and then cash them in and bail. Not running around jetpacking, you know, trying to get through lips and stuff like that between the biodome and the floor panel that keep you from being able to just run in and out real quick. But we want to preserve that. So in order to do that, we want to avoid that difference in height elevation. Height elevation. Height elevation. Jesus. Anyways, you want to avoid that. You know, over the course of all this, it'll just be too high. There'll be problems. But you can't do anything about the fact that this game blows at connecting pieces together. You can't reach in there and grab it and put it where you want. You have to rely on the game to snap it somewhere for you. And it doesn't want to do that. It knows what you want to do, and it's going to fight you. So you have to fight back. So one way I fight back is I'm like, okay, fine. There's going to be a variation. It's going to be sloppy, fine. But I'm not going to let it drag out for 50 fucking panels and make a big difference. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure these to this platform here, which I already know is as level as it's going to get. And because of the ratio in size between these two, notice it's not the same size as the floor panel. Notice it clicks to the middle. There'll be one gap, there'll be a gap of 1, 2, and on the third one, place another one of these, and then work back. And that way, your difference in elevation is only going to be amplified for like 4 of these panels. God, even that, I mean, look at that. Look at how much it changes that quick. It's just, it's mystifying, but there it is nonetheless. And then gap 1, 2, and on the third one we drop this. Mindful of where we put our cursor, try to put it in the same spot, more or less every time. And always you can use the rotate function to try to find different heights and stuff like that, although with this it's just not going to fucking happen. There. And again, this you don't have to be so, you don't have to be anal about this, because as long as we're eliminating that really big difference at the end, these little differences won't make a noticeable difference. So 1, 2, yeah, now the third one, put it right there, then build back. One, two, third one, drop it. Work back. I'm not going to go the whole length with this, but I want to build several domes just so I can make the positioning part something that you can follow on, because it's really important that you position them properly if you want them to consistently look, you know, like you're spacing between them to be like consistent looking. And that'll never be perfect either. It just makes me just want to scream every time I look at where they overlap each other a little bit. But I know in my heart that that's as good as it's going to get, because I have fought this fight for just hours and hours and hours, and I'm not going to win the fight, but it's a draw sometimes, and that's the best you can hope for. So here we go. We'll do a couple more like this. Trying to adjust the height by rotating it, because the rotational controls will also do a height adjustment sometimes. See, look, see that right there? What the fuck? Look at that. Look at the height difference before it rotates. You can kind of switch. Boop, 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 Like, what the fuck? Why does it do this? Who knows? 1, 2, drop 1. Or, you know, instead of going back, you can just do 1, 2, drop 1. 1, 2, drop 1. That way you're not backtracking as much. 1, 2, drop 1. Alright, that should be enough to do everything I want to do. I don't think I have the materials to build the domes either, so I'll have to go down there and scavenge them off that other base. So, working back, mindful of where we put the cursor in hopes that it's not going to be a total disaster when the panel finally gets placed. Like already, it's just, what is it doing? Why is it doing this? It doesn't even, I guess it's because the angle I'm looking at it. The way you're standing, where you are standing, whether you're looking up and down, all of these things, for some reason, have an impact on where your object gets placed. You know, which it just seems so counterintuitive. But again, in this game, I don't believe they put a lot of thought into base building. They just threw it together and added it, and it's not like it's fucking Minecraft or anything. I don't play Minecraft, so I don't know. But I have a sneaking suspicion that since Minecraft is all about building stuff, when you build stuff, it actually gets built the way you want it to. And this is really looking like ass. I haven't had one this bad in quite a while. But that'll do, pig. So we get back over here. We'll go back to the beginning. Yeah, that's more than enough for a couple of domes. And let me check my inventory real quick. Alright, I got the makings for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 domes. So that's a good start. We'll go right back to this bullshit right here. So, dome placement. Your first instinct would be to put this panel. Oh, okay, we're not even there yet because I forgot. You have to do these 2 deep. There's one at the front just to establish something to connect to. That's really the only reason this front one is here. And then the second one is the one your cursor will actually rest on. So you just do that, doing one of these numbers, just attach, as I showed you in the video for making a level deck. Don't attach them to their own row, attach them to the previous row by putting... What is that shit? Oh, it's because it popped out and went behind me. You want to attach it to the previous row. And that gives you a more consistent result. Trying to do this and run at the same time is not advisable either. Why is it doing this to me? And if you watch the floor panel video that I made, the first one I made, you'll see me lay one of these decks that looks like it's all one piece. It's so perfect. Like, it's one of the best ones I've ever laid. And I did it relatively quick, too. So you're going to go 2 panels deep on that. God, it looks like fucking ass, man. I'm not sure. It's giving me a much harder time because it knows I am making a video trying to help people out here. Alright, back at the beginning. Now, what I was going to say before. You don't place the dome in such a manner as that a normal panel. This is all you look. Oops. That's one piece. That's one piece. You don't want one piece in the middle of the dome. If it is, because the dome is like this, there's the outside area of the dome, which is low. And then it dips down, it comes back up, and the middle of the dome is elevated. Like if you ever look at like a milk saucer, that's what I call it, it's my fucking cat. If you ever look at like a saucer for a coffee cup, it'll kind of dip and then come up and stuff like that. It's kind of like that. So it's higher in the middle. If this ends up in the middle, you'll be able to see it, and it'll look like shit. But when you go to delete it, you won't be able to delete it because the computer can't establish the difference between one or the other. So it won't let you select it to delete it. So you're just stuck with that in the middle of your fucking dome. I think there are even some in that other base that's sitting down the hill that are like that. So what I realize is stop doing that. Instead, I build the base at this, so the middle of it is in the seam between 2 of them, at the connection between 2 of them. Because on the outside, when I get inside the dome, I'll be able to grab the edge of the panel to delete it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here, gradually. First, positioning. I always use a combination of, you can see that seam in the middle front of the dome on bottom. There's a seam there. I try to line that up with the seam between the 2 panels so that it's centered appropriately. And also because this will provide adequate and accurate spacing from dome to dome to dome. Because in what just must be just sheer coincidence, two different kinds of objects actually have a consistent ratio to each other in this game. So these domes, I can consistently space them by using the connection spot, the seam between two different panels as the centerpiece. So that seam on the front of the dome lines up with the connection between these two separate panels. And then also my white cursor dot in the middle there, I try to make sure that's on the seam too. Because, I mean, you could do this. Look, oh, the seam is on the seam right there, right? But obviously that's not straight, and you want the doors to be pointing in the correct direction. The doors will connect right where that seam is right there, dead center. It's one of the few things that's consistent in this game is the door connections. So you want to make sure this seam on the front and the cursor in the back are both on this. That way you got a direct, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like it's parallel, it's perpendicular, whatever. The door will be facing towards you directly and towards the middle of the walkway directly and towards the door across the walkway from it directly, consistently. So we drop that. Okay. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of an overlap there, but not enough to hurt anything. I mean, you could start building farther out if you wanted to build a railing along here. I just do a short wall right there and a long wall right here, and don't worry about that little space right there. But you do whatever the fuck you want. Now, we put the door on it. And, you know, normally I'd be like switching colors and stuff like that and materials, trying to get a really something noticeable going on, but I'm not going to bother with that. So we put the door on it. Now, what I would normally do at the end, but I always do the first one, whenever you do something, you want to just test it through to the end, so you know if you did it right. So instead of now, I could just go, yep, okay, I laid that dome, and then lay like fucking 20 more domes. And then if I found out there was some kind of mistake in the elevation or the positioning or something like that, then I'd have to redo 20 of them. So I follow one through all the way to the end, of course not with the planning, because the planning never goes wrong. Open that door up, get in there, and you can see the elevation changes between one panel to the next are evident by the way the dome shows up in one side a little more than it does on the other side. And then when I want to grab these to delete, oops, I can grab that one and delete it, and I can grab that one and delete it. And right here, you can't grab that one. It just won't let you. It only shows dome, even though my cursor is on that. It's because there's not enough elevation difference between the two for the computer, the program rather. My computer's awesome. I'm not blaming my computer. For the program to tell the difference. So you just grab it on the outside here and delete it. And then you delete this, whoops, this one, and this one. So now what you've got is a dome that for the time being is just floating there, but the door is right there. And the elevation allows me to go in and out without jumping or jetpacking or anything like that. It won't even break your sprint, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't even break your sprint when you go through there. So, I mean, that's pretty good shit right there, right? So, there's that. Now we've got one dome placed accurately. Now, the next thing we do is we place the next dome. And this is what I was talking about as far as like these hash marks, whatever you want to call them. These little seams in between will allow you, and this is a good example of why we have the pavers. If you don't have the paver there, your cursor's out in the air and then your dome wants to float somewhere else. You put it on the paver, the dome's where you want it. That's what the pavers are for. That's why we build them all and then just turn around and delete them. Because there's no other way to do this shit. So we go down. When it turns green, now you can see it'll turn green and there's too much overlap there. That other dome is inside of this dome. But you go to this, you go right to this middle piece between two again. Get that seam lined up. Make sure the cursor's on the seam as well. Bring it up nice and snug to the, I'm going to point at the screen again. You don't know where I'm pointing. Bring it up to the concrete floor thing. The concrete floor panel right there is where we're going to try to get it snugged up against it. See, that's too far. That's not far enough. That's too far. That right there is about perfect. And then we drop it. Now there's some overlap here. Oh, and there's a height difference here. Holy cow. That's because that one panel was higher up here. That's why there's such a height difference. But as you can see, there's only a little bit of overlap, and we can consistently do that from dome to dome to dome. And, you know, it's doesn't destroy suspension of disbelief because they just could be, like, wired in a series or something like that, right? Like, anyone cares about that stuff. Even I don't care about that shit. But I want it to look good. I want it to look like someone did a good job because it's got my name on it. And more importantly, it's got... all my systems are named after movies that I like, or just movies that, even if they're not necessarily good, I think people should see them because they're an experience. This one is named after the original Poltergeist movie, which is a really, really good movie. It's a good fusion of horror and like the childlike wonder and adventure that you see in a Spielberg movie, because it's really a Spielberg movie. Even though he had Tobe Hooper direct it, he only did that because he was under a contractual obligation that wouldn't allow him to direct the movie. So he brought in Tobe Hooper, who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Now he's making like this childish horror movie thing, this like PG or whatever. And he's named as the director, but really you watch the movie, you can tell it was really Spielberg who was directing from the producer's chair. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so I name these systems after that. I'll name the planets after characters in them. This one's named after Tangina, the little lady who's trying to purge the house of this evil and stuff like that. And so I want this stuff to look good. I don't know. I just want to make a good impression because I really want people to watch these movies. And I don't think it's going to work. I don't think people are going to be farming, trying to get living glass so they can get a hauler someday. And they'll be like, man, I really need to watch a 35-year-old movie that some old fat guy told me to watch on the internet by naming his base after someone in it. I mean, that's not going to happen. But still, I just want to take pride in what I'm doing because it's more than just a base. It's just something that I want to do to draw attention to something that I like because I want other people to like it too. I know, it's ridiculous. So yeah. This was supposed to be about building domes. So yeah, I've got the dome there. I'll put the door on it. Normally, once I've established that everything's okay, and everything's not okay, I should have went back and redid the foundation paver over there to put the dome at the same height. But the rest of the domes will be the same height, and you'll get the idea. I usually won't, I'll wait till I make all of them to go and put the doors on, because the doors will be a different color from the dome, and I don't want to switch back and forth with colors. And anyways, it becomes all automatic from here. You just go, you keep going until you're at the right spot, which is right there because there's a little bit of overlap, but not too much, and it lines up with that seam between the two. Drop it down. I don't even leave that part of the menu after this. I just keep on going. Go back here. And every now and then you want to stop and check, because sometimes you'll go too far and put it on the wrong seam. Okay. You know everything's perfect when it, for no reason, moves the dome. That means you've got it so perfect and square that the game is going to have a fucking conniption fit. And when I try to get it in there, it'll just make it disappear and go somewhere else. So I've had to offset the cursor slightly, because otherwise that happens. So the cursor's not perfect on the seam, but everything else is. And it's like not even 1 degree of difference. So, you know, sometimes it's just like life, right? Sometimes you just have to concede something and move on. And that's what we have to do in this game a hell of a lot. It's just you got to say, well, this is as good as it's going to get. I've accomplished something, so I'm just going to take what I've got and hit the road. So we'll just put that there, even though it's not perfect. And another one. Again, trying to bring it up nice and close to that, the concrete floor panel there. Try to be consistent. And, you know, every now and then I'll stop and I'll look and be like, yeah, look at how lined up those are. That's pretty badass, even though that one's not really lined up very well at all. But sometimes it is, and I can take pride in that. A sense of pride and accomplishment. All right, now I'm all out of those. And then again, like I was saying before, very rarely in this game can you just walk around and just slap shit on other shit and have it where it's supposed to go the first time. But there's only 4 possibilities for these doors to hook to the biodomes, and it'd be hard to accidentally put it in the wrong spot because there's like a 90-degree difference. So there it is, and you just repeat this over and over and over again till you go as far as you want to go. And then I'm going to go to the other side too, and I'm probably just to reduce the piece count to make it download and upload faster and render better in people's computers, because every dome is 15 plants and a door and a dome. So I mean, there's a lot. The numbers get big quick. That one down there is over 1,000 by a bit. So this one right here, I'm going to try to make it a little simpler, but I still want people to, you know, one-stop shop and just be able to do like 40 or 50 living glass, boom, like that, and then move on. So we're not going to make it tiny, but we're going to reduce the unnecessary parts by quite a bit. So I'll probably delete all this right here and rebuild it. But that's it. That's how I do dome placement. And then once I got all that one done, and I probably might not even put the doors on, I'd already have the deck laid over here. Once that deck was laid, I'd laid this deck over here that's going to get deleted with the foundation pavers, 2 wide all the way out, and just go through and do it. So what I'll show next, I'm going to go through, I'm not going to include in the video, I'm going to delete all these, and I'll do one more video showing how I do what I call the drip pan, so that when people fall through because you delete these, right? So people will be like, "Huh?" and just walk through that hole and fall down and be like, "Oh, it's stupid because I fell down, then I had to fly back up," and if it's an orbital, holy shit, you know, they're really not going to be happy. So I've come up with a safety measure. to keep that from happening. And I'll show you how to build that in the next video. But there it is. That's how you do my style of biodome construction. And that's the end of the video. I babbled a lot in that one.